Hey everyone, it's Andrew Schiffman.
Harry Turcott here. We both worked at MTV in the music and talent department in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a time where music videos, TRL, The Jersey Shore, and the Osbournes ruled the airwaves.
Yes, Andrew, those are some great years. So tune in every week as we catch up with old MTV coworkers, record label execs, VJs, and artists.
I can't wait, Perry. We'll give you insights into meeting superstars before they were superstars and some juicy secrets from that golden age of MTV.
So grab your headphones and get ready to relive the era of music television and the people who shaped a generation.
And welcome back. We are here for another episode of Welcome to the Music Lounge. We have a very special guest today. Perry, how is your day going so far?
My day is going really well, Andrew. Thank you for asking.
Nice.
Let's jump right into it. Today, our guest is Buttahman, a former MTV music exec and currently a comedian and content creator based out of Los Angeles. Butta, how you doing?
I'm great, man. Yo, it's so good to see y'all. Seriously, it is really well. I'm seeing y'all, but good to be speaking to you guys. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. It has been, yeah.
It's been a good minute, man. Like the early 2000s. Wow.
It was a long time ago, but still so fresh and relevant. We really felt like we paved the way for music and music content. So that's kind of what we're going to talk today about.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely. It was a great time. It was a fun time. I had the privilege of working with some really great, passionate people who are passionate about music, and to be, I like that y'all call it "Welcome to the Music Lounge" because that was where it all went down. It used to go down in the music lounge.
That was where it happened, man. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That is where it happened.
If those glittery mirrored walls could talk.
I wasn't going to say if you put a blue light on the couches, but I'm not going to say it. I just said it. Oh well. All right. So Perry, what are we going to talk about today?
So, since Butta was sort of the in house resident hip hop and rap expert at MTV at the time that we were there, I think most of our conversation is going to focus on that. You ready to go, Butta?
I'm just gonna jump off with one of my fondest memories in the music lounge was having your back advocating for Lady Gaga when nobody believed in her. Nobody believed in her. Perry, and it's Pride Month, Perry. I wasn't in the tribe yet. I was still in the closet. But Perry was like the only like dude out advocating for Lady Gaga, and everybody in the room was like,
I remember one of the people in the room just said, "Oh, she's just a disco artist. She's just a dance artist." And I was like, "Yes, but that is what people are like responding to right now. So maybe we should get on this." But
Oh no, my favorite one was, well, we saw her open up for it was like some huge act, and they were like, well, and people really didn't get her. I was like, look, I went to the underground club at 2 a.m. where people were like fiending for her, and I never saw no shit like this in my life. Y'all didn't go to the spot where her fans are. Y'all went to the opening of a major show, and you're not getting it. But I'm telling y'all that she's gonna blow up.
yeah, she was the opening act for New Kids on the Block at Madison Square Garden, and you know when you go there, and you're the opening act, there's like five people in the audience at that point. Excellent story. Thank you for reminding me of that. I still tell people that I was on Gaga early, and you know, it's sort of one of the feathers in my cap, I guess. But here we go with the questions. So in the late '90s and early 2000s, MTV really leaned into hip hop and rap, I think, and helped create superstars like Eminem, Jay Z, and 50 Cent. Do you think that's an accurate assessment? And what was your role in making that happen?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I got to MTV in 2001. So at that point, it was very much the transition of like going from boy bandy TRL to Jay-Z needs to be on TRL. And that was sort of the trend where hip hop was so prevalent. And I think it really started off, I think Eminem had already broke because it's like 99, but like it was like the 50 Cent and the Ja Rule and that era. And I remember like coming in, Ja Rule was the king of hip hop. He was on, everything he touched. That was when Murder Inc., Ja Rule, Ashanti was having their stride. And then 50 Cent came along and within the club. And I remember that was like my freshman year. And I remember like just that sort of being the thing when 50 sort of broke open. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well now we need to address hip hop on the platform because this is becoming the dominant music. And then there was always like the thing about the room is like there was also in the middle of that there was a movement to like save rock music, and then it was like, well, we're still pop. What direction are we going with? And then always having to be the advocate of you guys. We need to get these artists, particularly some of the newer hip hop artists that were coming out at the time, like Ti, DJ Khaled, Kanye West. You know what I'm saying? That was like 2001, 2002. These are all sort of like new buzzing artists that were, all right, we got to get these guys on the platform. But definitely once it became so undeniable, it was like, all right, we got to start leaning on this hip hop stuff. And then also when it was translating into the ratings, because when there were like hip hop block programmings, they tend to rate higher than what was happening in alternative. And so we had like that data to go back and be like, well, y'all see what's happening with these hip hop blocks, right? Y'all see what's happening with, but it's always been the thing about one of the cool things about MTV was that there was always an opening for diversity and trying to be everything to everyone. Sometimes that didn't work, sometimes it did. But yeah, but definitely they played a huge role in the transition of the dominant of hip hop, especially when you started to see, like I said again, the 50s, the artists whose names I won't mention due to legal issues. But back in the day, they were all in the building.
I mean, Buttahman, do you think that like when hip hop was on MTV, it was for a new audience that really weren't integrated in the hip hop culture from like 20 years previously? They were like new fans, and hip hop was really being created to fit in this mainstream bubble, i.e., the MTV audience, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, hip hop had already kind of taken over, a lot. I think with MTV, it was sort of there was this comfort zone around the pop era, the Britneys, the Christinas, and that was really what the young audience was focusing on. But then when it transitioned to, okay, well, now these kids are over these pop bands and they're into hip hop artists, the hip hop artists are becoming the pop stars now. I think that transition happened when MTV really started embracing them. But really, in Middle America, which we always have the debate about, New York, LA, we're major cities. We're not representing, small town USA, and they're into this. And y'all have to understand that we're industry town, so we're not exposed to things the way that people are. But we can tell you, by looking at the time we get all this information that would come in every morning, and the sound scan and the radio and all this other stuff. And so we look at that stuff and say, look, obviously this thing is resonating. Or, a lot of times we were really great on gut, which I think I think everybody in the room got their gut play or their passion play, which was usually advocating for someone who wouldn't have been noticed if it wasn't for someone's individual discovery. And I think we all have one of those.
Yeah. Do you think MTV really made hip hop uh, sort of more marketable in Middle America, or do you think it was the other way around?
And I think, I think what we did was it was a combination of, having a staff of people who were kind of tastemakers and bringing them all together so that they could be the identifiers and okay, like you have this, we know you're that, we know you have this, we know what, and you bring us what you think is bubbling, and then we'll look at the information to say, okay, this is what it is. I think that certain moments, like when artists started to get on TRL, you know what I mean? Like when 50 Cent got performances and there were like hip hop takeovers and all that stuff. I think that helped to get things mainstream, and there was definitely always an impact, and it was always a thing where there was this. Well, TRL is a pop, as a pop thing, but now these artists need to get on it because this is what's culturally relevant. And then having to sort of like break that down and explain that and to fight those battles was always kind of like the thing that we had to do. Um, but ultimately, once it hit, and like I said, I would definitely say like 50 Cent was sort of like the 50 Cent and Ja Rule era was sort of like that transitioning into hip hop, and then Nelly came with Hot in Here, you know what I mean? Then and all these, I'm trying to think. Nelly came with Hot in Here, then Rick Ross, like all these artists started coming out in the early 2000s, started to just become very, started to become mainstream. And I think, like I said, I think the acceptance on platforms like TRL and the MTV Awards and all that stuff had a lot to do with it.
Well, also, I think, what MTV did really well was create programming around what was going to work, like Pimp My Ride with Exhibit, right? So they were really able to integrate other genres of music that they wanted to get behind an artist in other programming outside of supporting a music video.
And that was also fun, like, when you would get those assignments to find music for shows, identify artists who would be great hosts, looking for the talent, okay, this person, their their music might not be bubbling, but they're a great personality. Let's use them in something. Those are always fun.
So that brings me to, we had almost the same roles, but focused on different genres. We were great programmers, right? We used to, create a great flow of music on our, designated channels. But we also were a label rep as well, and I think that was a really important part of our jobs. How would you describe being a label rep to an outsider?
I mean, basically, you're the outside advocate for the artists before you bring them to us, and we're like, we're the gatekeepers. So ultimately, they were the advocates, and they would come with product. Some of it we wanted, some of it we didn't. But but it was really about, I think, working with the label reps. Number one, gave us insight as to, a lot of insight and a lot of advance notice, because we were the people who found out about these artists, like literally, like, hey, we got this person. We don't even have a record. We just signed this guy. Here, listen to this. And we get called into to the music. Oh, so and so just signed this artist. They're bringing them by, and we didn't know who they were. And so we were really we really got to be ahead of stuff. We always got to know what was coming out ahead of time, and there was always usually a strategy around releases, especially major ones. And then there was also strategy around, well, how do we break these new artists? You know what I mean? I remember in particular case, I was Jive when it was Jive, and then it became RCA, and then they would go through their changes of like label. 1 minute you're at Sony, then you're this, then or someone would leave and your label load would increase. Like you're working with independents, which was cool because then we sort of became the sub advocates, you know what I'm saying? Because our label reps would talk to us about what was important to them. We bring those priorities into the meeting, or if there was a video coming out. And so we were all, it was a cool process to be in, because we would have those conversations and the emails, and then you're assigned to a label. So you actually, like, okay, you have to go to this show because this is your label show and you have to be there to represent. And that was sometimes like, oh, boo hoo, I gotta go to a concert and drink free booze. It was always me. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, this job is horrible. And I get to expense my cab ride home. When will this hell end? Don't you miss, I miss expensing things. I really do. I do. I miss expensing things. I'm really about the comedian artist life, but every once in a while I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I used to be able to sign off on that. I remember keeping those receipts. It was so funny. Everybody had their expenses due, and you see this somebody with a whole shit ton of receipts all on their desk. It's like, oh, it must be expense time.
Hey, so as a label rep, one of the things that, and you just mentioned this, you were invited to shows and concerts. Obviously, you went to other events and parties and things that most people would probably die to go to. What was like the most exclusive, the most fun, and the most scandalous one you ever went to?
Come on now, we were in these streets. We were definitely in these New York streets at a great time. Like it was. I had so much fun. Um, I would say, wait a minute, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I went to Mariah Carey's house, but I can't remember who was there. And I want to say I went to Mariah Carey's house. I didn't, but I want to say it was some random. It was she had a Halloween party that she would throw every year. And then one time it was like, okay, we're going to Mariah's house. And like, what? And she had like Marilyn Monroe's piano, and she had taken a liking to just we yeah, it was that was a fun vibe. But going to her bathroom and seeing pictures of herself all over the place, all the bathroom. Then I want to say the most fun I the most exclusive was an MTV Movie Awards after party that was on the Sunset Strip. And I just remember going up in the room and like Ethan Hawke and just like all of these like A-list movie celebrities were just in this little room. And I want to say Sway had brought me in as his plus one or whatever. So it was just real crazy. I remember one time going to Kanye's 30th birthday at the Louis Vuitton store on Park Avenue. I just remember my first year at MTV, and they told us about Christmas, and we got all of these like crazy swag gifts, and just every year it would just be at Christmas time. We would just be getting all this crazy stuff. I remember I got a Barney's gift card for $100, and that's when I learned Barney's is the only thing you could get in $100 is a pair of socks. So I came, I had my $100 gift card. I was ready to go up in Barney's. I was ready to put it down. Literally, it was like I was owing money. No. I mean, I cannot take anything away from that era. It was fun time, great time. I look back on it very fondly. I'm extremely grateful for the experiences and the people that I've met. And even though you know we're at a distance or whatever, I'm still keeping up with people. I saw that there was a reunion recently. Susan Natoli advocated, and I was like, man, I would love to. I'm in LA, so of course I don't get to do those things, but they always look pretty fun. And it's all, again, it was just genuinely a great group of human beings that came together at one time. One of my memories was the fact that when I got to MTV, it was August 2001, and then September 11th happened. And then we had to go through all those changes of figuring out, well, how are we addressing the trauma and the music, and are we going to have our jobs? like all that stuff was happening. You know,
Also, the summer that, well, two things. MTV turned 20 that summer, and that's the summer that Aaliyah died.
what I accepted the job. I came up to New York, and they were like, "You're going to come to the 20th birthday party for MTV." And that was my first, that was my debut, like my introduction to, like, wow, I'm really gonna love this job. I was like, what? And so, yeah, up until that point, I was like, yeah. And then I started, like the week, my birthday is August 26th. Aaliyah died on the 25th. Yes, yes. And so, it was a real funky time. And then I just remember, like, that was going into September 11th, and then coming out of that, I just remember the songs that we were playing to try to, like, keep people. I remember it was Pink, Get the Party Started, Fabulous, I Can't Deny It. Like, there were things that were just certain music that we were just, okay, we need to uplift people's spirits at the same time, maintain some decorum for that little era right there, coming out of 9/11. I know we were addressing a lot of the hate that was coming at the Muslim community at the time. We had a conversation about that in the music lounge. And yeah, but there was always one thing I loved about it was, again, you could not say that there was not a diverse representation of folks in the room. Like, everybody from day one was represented. There was not a community that wasn't represented by the folks in that room.
Yeah. So, we talked a lot about your kind of Gaga experience and passion, and you were a believer. Sometimes even if MTV and a label got behind an artist, there was no guarantee it would break, right? So a lot of time and effort and money went into trying to break artists. But I guess apart from Gaga, was there an artist during your career that you thought that actually just couldn't break?
Yeah, but I believed in a bunch of people who didn't move the needle. I remember. Let's see. I got a whole list. Tweets. um, let's see. Oh my gosh, I remember her. Well, I mean, she did kind of have a Khalees. Khalees kind of was always somebody we were always on the fence about, but I was definitely a Khalees advocate. A lot of us are passionate about Reese, who was sort of like in that fold between rock and urban, and people couldn't really get her. But they definitely gave her a lot of the the buzzworthies and the looked out when they could, but it just didn't connect. Um, who else? Who else? Who else? Who else? Who else? Oh, what is her name? Oh yeah, there was hmm. I remember Blue Cantrell. Remember that was a big deal for L.A. Reid, and that was like we all felt like okay, whatever. Um,
Then, and that seemed to be the case a lot of times. One artist would break, and five artists that were very similar would like jump up. The 2007 VMAs, I had to get artists to use this new platform called Twitter, and nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew how it worked, and I was only able to get Soldier Boy and Plain White Tees to do it.
and Soldier Boy, he was one of the first internet savvy people, so he got it. When he named his album SoldierBoy.com, I remember him coming in and doing that dance in the music lounge where we literally make artists sing for their supper. Perform for us, entertain us. We are not entertained. Where are our sandwiches? I remember one particular person I felt that was being forced down our throat was Duffy. Remember Duffy? Duffy was like, it was like Amy Winehouse had popped, and then they were like, okay, well, we got Duffy, and we're just like, nah, yo. And they really tried to make us like her a lot, and everybody was just like, we got Amy Winehouse. What do we need her for? Honestly, Amy Winehouse was one of the like. I was so glad to be at MTV when that happened because I remember going to see her at Joe's Pub, and that was one of the best shows I had been to. To see her in that intimate venue and to be able to say that to people like, yo, I saw Amy Winehouse at Joe's Pub, and then we saw her again. Like a lot of these venues, some of them aren't even around anymore. Like some of the places where we used to go see these shows, like CBGB's closed while we were at MTV, like that kind of thing. Um, the and then that whole ushering of Sean Paul and the reggae movement that was happening in the early 2000s, where Sean Paul would come with something, and then we'd have like Wayne Wonder and Elephant Man and like all of those folks or whatever advocating for those reggae artists, who a lot of them in some cases turn out to be one-hit wonders or only put out records when Sean Paul put something out. It was like, yeah. So that was, but it was a fun time, and we also got to support a lot of the. We were from the last era of the star video music director and videos impacting stardom. Whereas now, you see all these stuff all over YouTube, and you're like, who directed this? What? Who? What? Like, you can make a video for like $100 on your iPhone, you know what I'm saying, and get it played on YouTube. So we were definitely, ushering out the last era of the impactfulness of music videos and the expenses of it. And, I remember coming into MTV and people were spending 100,000, 500,000. The video budgets were crazy. And then towards the end, it was like, what? We're not spending money on that.
So one last question about it. Who was the big who became the biggest artist that you personally were involved with bringing in to meet the whole team at MTV?
Well, I would definitely say Kanye West. That was definitely the big one that I got credit for, and people were like, okay, this is, we brought this guy in and advocated for him, and ultimately, and still to this day, anytime I run into any of his managers, any of his people, they're always like, oh, that's Butter. He he was an early believer. It's always great when people still acknowledge that. Um, and then I have to say, I'm very proud of standing up for Lady Gaga with you, Perry. That was definitely a moment for me because I was still in the closet and I was dealing with my issues of if I advocate for Lady Gaga, are they gonna think I'm gay? Is that gonna be like, am I outing myself right now? Like, what's, what's where am I at with this? What's happening with this? And then by the time I got to BT, right, Lady Gaga had popped, and I remember going back to I think it was the VMAs, the one that were in Brooklyn, and that by that point I had I was gone, and I saw Amy, and they were like, "Yo, I guess you guys are right about her," because by the next time she was wearing the meat dress. That was they like that was, and she was everywhere, and so and that was cool because her management team, Troy and those guys, they remembered that, and they were like, yeah, this dude believed in Gaga. And I still have my birthday party prior to that weekend. I went out to an Interscope party and Lady Gaga was there, and I got called over to the table, and I have this picture with her that I always keep as my like, yep, this is me with Gaga. That's how we do. Oh wait, oh no, and I did out myself to go get near Adele because one time I was in WeHo at oh my god, what's the name of that fucking place? Why can't I remember it right now? I live in LA, it's so shameful. The West Hollywood Institution. God, what is it called? I'm gonna remember anyway. Either way, so I'm in there. It's BET weekend, and Lisa DeLuca is in there with Adele, and I see Adele, and I ran across the room, and I was like, "Yo, can I get a picture with Adele?" And Lisa's like, her jaws dropped, like, "Butter, what are you doing in here?" And yeah, so I got a photo with Adele that day. So, but yeah, but though Adele was kind of like I was out, but when Chasing Pavements had come in, she was new, and everybody was like, "Wow, who is this chick? She's really great." I just remember, like the Kanye meltdowns that I had to be. I had the Kanye West account, so I got assigned to him in Las Vegas, where basically they had filmed his part with the helicopter and all that stuff, and they just let him sit in that suite. And he wanted to see the show. He was so pissed because they were like, "You have to stay in the room because it's gonna break the reality of the film if you're down there when your performance comes." And he just got frustrated. It was like had a meltdown. And I just remember being on TMZ in the background, and people are like, "Yo, bro, I just saw you in the middle of Kanye's meltdown." Um, and those kind of fun things would always happen. I remember, oh, I mean, dude, like we had, think about it, Chris Brown and Rihanna got together that Vegas performance, you know what I'm saying? And then the Britney meltdown. And like we had so many crazy moments that we kept to shut the F up about. Like I wasn't there for Janet. That was crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I have to say now that I am completely out the closet, I'm very upset with Diddy because I never got invited to any of those parties. I would have I would have totally, my sexually confused ass would have totally went on board. I was like, what? This was happening? I could have got an Illuminati membership and a three-way with Meek Mill. Like what? I'm like, what was going on? What was wrong with me, Diddy? I'm suing Diddy for discrimination. I'm like, what? All those meetings, all those planning meetings, all those like I was juicy, sexy, young in my prime, and you did not notice me at all. I was like, I was really presenting straight. I was really presenting straight very well.
Hey, you mentioned earlier that your birthday was typically right around the VMAs. And I know that your parties were kind of legendary. Who was the most famous guest? Who was the most famous guest to attend? Who was the most famous guest to attend, and who had the most embarrassing story?
Oh man, oh boy, my birthday parties, man. Woo, boy, those were yeah, those are some joints. I would say this. I would say Kanye West was probably the most like famous person. The most infamous person, R. Kelly. This is early 2000s. R. Kelly did come to my birthday party when we did Miami. I want to say it was like 2004. Um, Hulk and Brooke Hogan came in, I want to say like 2006, 2007. Yeah, but Hulk and Brooke Hogan. I was sitting here like, wow, this is my birthday. This is really happening. Well, this is crazy. So yeah, so it was, it was always like, it was just, that's how I kind of felt. I was meant to work here because like the VMAs would always fall on the around my birthday weekend, and we're just out there working. And so like, hey, we're just gonna meet over here for drinks, and the next thing you know, labor reps are like, hey, oh, you're having your birthday party. I'm coming through. Okay, great. Not knowing that they were coming through with a whole celebrity.
They were in town, man. It had to happen. I went to a few. I remember Miami. Maybe you said '06, '07, but yeah, they were some crazy times, man. I can't remember, which is probably a good thing because I was probably drunk as hell.
I'll always be so glad because what would suck was that I'd be like, oh man, I have this artist and their call time is like at 9 a.m. So I have to be there. I remember the one I was so late, and everybody looked at me like, well, it was his birthday, so I think I had Ludacris at the time, and Ludacris was performing with the Pussycat Dolls. I think this was Radio City, and I was so late. I remember Amy looked at me like, okay, it was your birthday. We're gonna let you slide. But
Yeah, the last VMAs I worked, I was her talent person, and so this is a kind of a funny story. The performance that she was doing was very involved. She was jumping out of a window and coming down a ribbon and smashing a glass on a store, but she had a shirt that was kind of a breakaway shirt. So she comes out of her trailer on the Paramount lot, and she takes her shirt and opens it and flashes us all. And she's got electrical tape across her nipples. And out of the corner of my eye, I see the Jonas Brothers walking towards us. And I was like, get back in your trailer. Get back in your trailer. I don't need the father seeing this right now. This is when they were all like super young and stuff.
But let's talk about the Foo Fighters, man. How did that happen?
oh my god, I just, I still get a kick out of that. I don't know why.
Foo Fighters. It was just the accent. It was only the accent. I probably came up to you and was like, "I need that Foo Fighters tape," and that's where it kicked off. I don't know. I knew. Those were two things we had to do. We had to bring up Gaga, and we had to bring in the Foo Fighters.
Yo, all I know is you be talking, saying some shit in the music lounge, and you say Foo Fighters. I was like, say it again, man. And then, and even let me tell you, my 90% of the reason for me doing this was to hear you say Foo Fighters. I would have requested it if you hadn't brought it up before this was over. I'd have been like, okay, bro, come on, where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
We have sort of like the second part of the podcast is kind of talking about sort of like one topic, and so we were thinking, um, there was, and you mentioned Ja Rule earlier, and a few other artists. There was this big push where artists were like bringing like female singers onto their songs for in the video to get a radio hit, whatever. Did sort of like, was that just purely marketing, or was it really like they really wanted to have these artists on with them? And did you think that that helped the songs get on MTV?
Well, I mean, I think this is the thing. There were certain artists that were like, you know what, this will help me with radio because it'll help to soften things up. I think with us, it was always about what the strength of the videos were. And what I liked about being at MTV was that, for instance, you know, something as dope as the Gorillas could happen, but that was a visual project. You know what I'm saying? That was a very visual project. There were certain artists that were like, okay, we don't know who you are or what's, but for instance, when you think about, I think one of the best rap song video combinations was Common and Mary J. Blige. I think the song was called "Come Close" or whatever, and that was just perfect. You know what I mean? Because it was a rap, it was love, it was a beautiful visual, and we were all so moved by it that we automatically was like, "We're pushing this, we're putting this out there." And then in some cases, I think for us, because we were all authentic, genuine people, we could tell when something was contrived and when something was legit. You know what I mean? Like, not every thing that had Mary J. Blige on it was popping. You know what I'm saying? Not everything that had like Faith Evans on it, or again, there was some combinations that worked. There was a point where Ja Rule was sort of like singing on records more than females were, and then he wound up kind of paying the price for that because once he became so crossovery, it left him open to be attacked by the quote unquote real hip hop community. I remember when uh, I'm trying to think who else. 50 Cent had Olivia, and nobody was really feeling her. She was not. They were pushing her, but it was like nah, we're good. Like there were certain artists that had proteges that would come in and you're just like, okay, I remember Brooke Valentine, kind of like people feeling like, oh, who is this chick? I know this is Matthew Knowles, but who cares? There were certain artists that were, being advocated by bigger artists, and you're like, okay, we don't see her blowing up, but we'll give her a shot because we need you on this show, or we need you for this, or like, so we had to play those political games sometimes. But for the most part, I think that when it was genuine and it was a great song, it would break out, or one of us would be touched by it enough to say, hey, this is cool. When it felt contrived, when it felt forced, where you were just throwing on off for a remix, I don't think it was for us. Again, if the visuals were trash, we would advocate for it because again, people have to see it, and that was one of the cool things about programming for a video network was that it was about the visuals in a lot of cases. We had artists that the songs weren't really that strong, but the visuals were so compelling, or there was some great message in it that we were like, all right, yeah, let's give this a shot.
I mean, talking about the visuals, do you think when video directors and they were kind of getting the concept behind a video, were they really thinking about how is this going to look and feel on MTV, knowing the audience, the other videos out there? So I think videos were created in that time with an MTV play in mind. Obviously, now there's different avenues of where you can get music videos. Maybe they're more, artist branded. But I think back then, Do you agree that they were really made for MTV?
It depends. I mean, I think we weren't the only game in town at that time. So you had like, there was the 106 in Park and BT and then there was the expansion into like VH1 Soul and there was sort of like we had created an incubator system for all visuals, even if it wasn't that great. I remember we used to be like, we'd be in meetings like, yeah, let's give it to MTV.com. Let's give that to .com. Let's give it to .com. Eventually, I was like, look, we are not your dumping ground for your trash, okay? Like, we're not gonna play. Like, can MTV.com play this? I need you to tell them we took it for something. Look, we are not the garbage disposal. And then, but no, I mean, I think there was a school of directors that came along when we were, like like Hype Williams, like Little X, who else, who else, who else, who else, and just just there was a school of directors that became famous for doing videos, and then eventually they transitioned over to movies and film, um, but and I think we were the last school of videos as an event. You know what I mean? Like we were fighting to get those premieres and the exclusivity and all that stuff, and fighting with the internet, fighting with artists just putting stuff out on their own, and just trying to like keep that relevancy of what we can get for a premiere versus somewhere else. I remember that was a big deal, fighting for the premieres when they would go to other places. I just remember like when Fuse popped off, it was like, oh, we have competition, but then we really don't.
It, yeah, and also, I remember like MTV would get the premiere, but then the digital team at the label would say, "Oh, we're giving it to AOL or Yahoo," and then Amy would be like, "Well, if you're giving it to AOL or Yahoo, we're not doing it on the channel," and then we get it from MTV.com.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I mean we had to swing our bat around as much as we could at the time because it was really, again, we're there before we were there when Friendster was a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, Friendster and MySpace. So we were there at the infancy of a lot of this stuff that changed the landscape forever. And now, when you look at, the existing, like, there's still the channels that play video, but they're more like backgrounds. Um, most people don't they go to the internet for music videos. They go to the internet for everything. I mean, like what you guys are doing podcasts, that is the new radio. You know what I mean? Like like we weren't there for the influencer era and all of this other new stuff that's happening. But ultimately, when you look at where MTV is today, they're doing what they have to do for the audience that is so spread out now. You know what I mean? Because when I think about it, it's like I stream everything. I don't watch live television. The only reason I see commercials is because I can't afford to pay the $17.99. I'm like, I want to get back to the point where my money is so cute that I don't have to look at commercials anymore. But but I got to do the $6.99 Netflix, the $7.99 Hulu. So I'm gonna have to look at some. I'm gonna have to look at some side effects and some diseases and some other stuff that I'm like, damn, I missed because when you're watching commercial television, those are all the advertisers, like the for the pills, for the restless leg, all that stuff, da da da. And then I started streaming everything, and so when you're streaming Netflix and you're not watching commercials, and then they got you with you could pay less money, but you're gonna have to watch some of these commercials. And I'm like, I guess I gotta watch some commercials now. But ultimately, everything is streamed. The whole landscape has changed. People have whole entire relationships on their phones with their phones. And I remember us going into the meetings where they told us that our phones were going to be the next screen and all these technology updates and the things that were going to happen that they were telling us that were going to happen that are actually happening. Like, people were already using their phone as to get in to get into their apartments and to do all this stuff. And this was like when we were still like texting was a big deal and two ways and all that shit.
Those are some great stories, man. Well, I think you are definitely a legend, and you're just moving into another era with your comedy. So we wish you all of the luck there. And just talking about the time, it was such an important part of our lives, but also the industry as well. So I'm glad that we were part of it. And thank you for spending an hour with us today, having a chat and to recap on a lot of this fun stuff.
Well, it was great seeing you guys. It was great going down memory lane. Everything I can say is that was a great era, but our best days are always ahead of us. You know what I'm saying? And we're all that era was responsible for us growing in so many ways, and I'm so grateful. I wouldn't change it for the world. Um, and so and it still continued the relationships of the folks who were in that room who've gone on to do so many great things and in their individual lives and their professional personal lives. Everyone has had to deal with like real life stuff, but I feel like in particular the group of individuals that were in the room in the early 2000s were just a unique strong team of people, and who have gone out and just no matter what just was like, yo, we love it and we're still gonna crush it. And congratulations to both of you for collaborating on this, and and keeping it really just again creating the things that we're always creators. We're always creating something. We were working at MTV, but somebody was a writer, somebody was working on a book, somebody was working on a project. You know what I mean? Like there was always like a hustle slash grind mentality of everybody that was there, because we all had goals that existed beyond MTV. So we kind of knew like, okay, we're here to do a job, but we also here because we have other things that we're passionate about. And this is a means to get to those things. So, well, you know what? Up, 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 up. Because, one thing about the people in that room is that we didn't ever endorse whack shit. So, whatever you guys are working on, I know it's going to be great and it's going to be a success. And that's why, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do that shit. Hell yeah, let's do it. I get to hear Foo Fighters? What?
All right. Well,
We'll
have a great day. Yep. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, thank
Excellent.
you. We appreciate the time, and good luck with everything that you've got going on, and we'll probably want to have you back at some point.
Peace. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today in the Music Lounge.
And tune in next week to hear more stories about your favorite era of MTV.